Hey, have you guys heard about this Phylloxera thing? It seems pretty bad, eh?
Yeah, it's a soil-based nematode native to North America that devastated Europe vineyards in the mid to late 1800s, knocking out about 2/3 of French grapevines. It attacks the vine by sucking sap from the roots and can later in its development even attack the vine above ground. This leaves the vine vulnerable to fungal attack and bacterial disease.
Geez, sounds bad. Did it ever come here to Australia?
Yes, it was first reported in Australia in 1877 when it was discovered in Geelong in Victoria.
Holy dooly. Sounds a bit scary, but is it under control now though?
At the moment, viticultural areas are classified as being Phylloxera infested zones, Phylloxera risk zones and Phylloxera exclusion zones. Majority of the Phylloxera infested zones are located in Victoria and include the Yarra Valley, King Valley and Rutherglen. As for here in South Australia, we get classified as an exclusion zone, thanks to quarantine measures being enforced since the 1870s.
Why is quarantine an effective measure in the first place?
Phylloxera usually relies on human transport of grape and vine material to infest a new area.
Like on your boots or on machinery.
Yeah, but it can also be transferred on the grapes, being moved to other wineries in different regions during harvest. And there are risks that come about when tourists and visitors are allowed to walk among the vines, especially in autumn.
So there's no way that phylloxera can be eradicated then?
Phylloxera is pretty resilient. The only reliable method is graft on to resistant rootstock, but it's pretty big investment for growers to establish the vineyard.
So then how do we know when we're dealing with Phylloxera and not some other pest or disease?
Well, at the moment, it's most common to sample soils by taking soil cores and visually inspecting for Phylloxera. That's a method recommended by the National Phylloxera Management Protocol, which has been in effect since 2009. That protocol also recommends using traps to quantify numbers of crawlers emerging from the root system.
But isn't it really time consuming to take all of those soil samples? It might do a bit of damage to the roots too, hey?
Well, I have heard in China there is recently have some DNA detection method of Phylloxera. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I heard about that too. That's using qPCR, right?
Wait, what's qPCR?
Well, to put it simply, qPCR, or quantitative polymerase chain reaction, is a method that amplifies small amounts of DNA in a sample that can help to estimate total Phylloxera numbers. All you need is a few strands of DNA that are particular to Phylloxera in order for their number to increase exponentially in 20 to 30 cycles. qPCR differs from PCR because a fluorescent stain like cyber green can visualize DNA present in the sample based on its level of radiance.
And that can use to find the Phylloxera in the vineyard?
Yeah, mate. So by taking some soil samples cores within 30 millimeters of the root zone, you can then extract the Phylloxera DNA and determine if it's present in the vineyard. It can pretty much cover all the different species of Phylloxera and even show when there are dead insects in the soil. Even at 1.5 to 2 Phylloxera per 200 grams of soil. So you can easily see if your vineyard's infested or if it's at risk of infestation. So say if your neighbour has it, you can take the appropriate steps.
Gee, sounds pretty complex. Is it currently usable in Australia or other countries?
Well, as you so intelligently pointed out, Ed, it is very complex, but the expense is becoming less and less as time goes on. The primers that are needed for PCR to work have been steadily dropping in price, which means that they can be implemented in a cost-effective way, especially when you begin to be able to sample more areas in a high-throughput way. As such, the traditional method of directly observing vines is starting to look like the less commercially viable option.
Interesting. So does it have a future in Australia viticulture?
Well, Suzanne and the team over at Vine Health Australia have been pushing really hard to have the DNA testing method recognised at the national level, alongside visual testing and hyperspectral imaging. And they're hoping to gain acknowledgement by the end of the year, which is a pretty long time considering the report on the matter was handed to the Australian Grape and Wine Authority back in 2017.
Cool. So is there any push forward in industry?
From what I've gathered, industry has been lagging behind a little bit. But in my opinion, more can be done to promote the greater accuracy that comes from qPCR, as well as using the same sampling technique to measure the incidence of other grapevine pests like nematodes.
So is there anything we can do to spread the word?
Maybe we could make a short video about the subject and present it to the future of the Australian wine industry.
Not a bad idea, Kit. Why don't we go down the pub later and discuss?
Good call.
Have you ever